Good afternoon. Off camera here, this is David Strittmatter from Ohio Northern University conducting an interview for the Kent State Guardsman Oral History Project. Today is Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, and we are in Norton, Ohio. And we have a guest today. Thank you for participating. So tell us, what is your name and where are you from?
Lynn Stovall, and I was born in Akron, Ohio.
And for how long and in what capacity did you serve in the Ohio Army National Guard?
I was in the 145th Infantry, and we were stationed in Akron over on the west side on Hawkins Avenue. And I was in the rifle platoon.
And why did you join the National Guard?
Well, I got a draft notice that said basically I had 30 days to join a National Guard or some type of reserve component. And on about the 18th day, I signed up with the National Guards, so I wouldn't have to go to Vietnam.
And what were you doing at the time in civilian life during your Guard years?
Right out of high school, I graduated in '65. I got a job in October of '65 at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And right after that is when I got the invitation to be drafted. So I lived at home with my parents. I think I was 19 years old then. And I had a car and had a good job. And I joined the National Guards.
What were some of the reasons that your Guard unit was called out?
For Kent State, or for, we had Akron riots, we had a lot of different things we were called out for. I'll start real quick with the Akron riots. Burning down a lot of buildings over on the west side. We were stationed at a fire station, and we would ride basically shotgun on a fire truck and go with the firemen, because they would put their hoses down and sometimes they would have to stretch them a ways and people would try to hack them, and then we would stand so far and they give us 1 round of ammo for our M1 Garand. And we were out 3 or 4 days. We lived at a fire station. And then the next big call up was the truckers' strike. And that was just prior to May 4th. And we were camped out at the Akron Rubber Bowl, which is no longer there now. But we camped there, and they would send us out on daily missions to guard road overpasses, because people were throwing objects and stuff off the bridge at truckers and different things like that. So, but we did that for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden they said, pack your stuff up, we're moving out. We didn't know where. And then finally somebody told me we're going to Kent State. And then we went to Kent State.
Do you have any memories of arriving into the city of Kent?
Vaguely, we were convoyed in, just masses of coming in. And and we went by, camped out by the old gym. Opened the door to the old gym, and we went in there into the gym and bivouacked or slept. And we did a lot of security around the old gym. But our unit was not on Blanket Hill, or we were down the other side of the hill.
So what are your memories of May 4th?
Oh, there's a lot of memories. I was against the war. That's why I joined National Guards. I didn't want to go to Canada. I didn't want to go to jail. I just wanted to do what I had to do and leave the military. And people were telling me that got back from Vietnam that they don't know what they're doing over there. And my dad was against the war. He told me he thought it was big business war. And after years passed, right on, it was. But I didn't want to do too much to rock the boat in the National Guards, you know. I just wanted to do my job and get out of there. So that's what I did. They burnt down, I guess, a recruiting office, I believe. We went by there, and it was pretty burned down, if I remember right. And they sent us out on other missions to the presidents of the university. I believe his name was Olds, maybe, and or White. I can't remember really, one or the other. But there was a platoon, maybe 25 of us, that we kind of surrounded his place. And somebody said, let's dig foxholes. We didn't. And nothing really happened to his place. It was just, I think, preventative measures that he allowed recruitment on that campus. I think that's what it was.
Do you, where were you during the volley of gunfire?
Well, we heard it. It was like one and then busted loose. We really didn't know what was going on because there was a big hill and we were down in the lower part. But right after that, maybe 3 minutes later, people started running where we were, picture us, about 3 feet apart, and there must have been 80 of us in line, just down, and just holding like this. And we had our bayonet, he said, fix bayonets. We had our bayonet on. And people running off the hill, calling us all sorts of names. We were part of the National Guard, but we weren't part of what people did, I think, wrong.
Do you recall returning home after being deployed to Kent?
I do.
And what are you thinking or feeling at this point?
Couldn't even believe it happened. I just wanted to get back to my routine of living at home, helping my parents out, and going back to work. I just kind of wanted to put it behind me, but I was always thinking about it because a lot of people were getting killed over in Vietnam and getting messed up when they come home. That was my feelings. Maybe the war won't last as long now.
Did you follow the investigation and trials in the aftermath, where some guardsmen, were defendants in the trial? Do you recall this?
It really wasn't with our unit, and no one said much about it afterwards. When every month we would have to go Saturday and Sunday, eight hours, I believe, each day, and no one said much. But the only thing they did after that was starting to do more riot control, doing wedge formations, different, and how to step and make noise, and things like that.
Well, Mr. Stovall, I found your name not in any document related from 1970, but a series of newspaper articles in 1977.
Okay.
And you were arrested on the campus of Kent State.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this this incident?
Well, I had a message that I wanted to tell. I'm trying to think here of a group of people that were meeting.
And I'm trying to think what it's called. I can't think what it's called right now, but it was a meeting of a lot of people up there. And I wanted to tell them what I thought happened at Kent State. And they wouldn't let me talk because I had to be on the agenda. And they had some areas marked off, and I went on that area, and I was arrested and taken to Ravenna, Ohio. Basically, I went in one door and somebody said, "I'll take care of that for you. I'll help you." When I got arrested, it was just somebody, don't know who. And then when I basically went in one part of the jail and went out the other part.
These news articles mentioned that there was a question, or there was a kind of a movement, perhaps, to build a gymnasium
Yes.
on part of the site where the shooting had happened. Why did you protest
Well,
the construction of the
right.
building?
I thought it was trying to cover up something that had happened that was significantly important. And when you try to build something over something, I was against that. And I thought I would go up and try to tell them what I thought happened at Kent State. And they didn't want to hear it.
On the day of this protest, you decided to wear a particular wardrobe.
I did.
Why did you decide to wear your National Guard uniform?
Well, it barely fit me, but I got into it. It represented the past and what is happening now. I wanted some validity and to make a statement. And I had a short time to do it. I didn't have time to join organizations and do
That I had a family, and that was in 1977, and I did what I had to do in a short period of time.
How were you received in Guard uniform by other protesters that were there?
Great. No. They wanted to know what I was doing, and I explained to them and they welcomed me with open arms. That somebody would speak out, like from the other side. But I really wasn't on, I was on the other side, but I wasn't on the other side. It was trying times. I did what I wanted to do, and I did it to get out.
In mid-July of '77, when you were going to this protest, you carefully selected a wardrobe
Yes,
for this particular day. What were you wearing, and why did you wear it?
I wore, I guess they call them BDUs. I wore the top half of my U.S. Army and had my name tag and I think my rank on it. And I dressed in that and went to Kent State.
And how were you received? I mean, you show up in National Guard uniform.
Oh, people were wanting to know what's going on, and I told them I come up there and I wanted to give them what I thought went on with the National Guards that happened that day. And I had something to say, and only the coalition would want to hear.
Well, what do you think went on that day?
What happened that day was people not having enough training, and they overreacted to a situation. That's what happened that day.
I see in one of these news articles from July of '77 that you were cited for contempt of a court order, and you were released on $25 bond. Do you have any recollection of this?
Somebody posted the bond evidently, because I went in one door and out the other.
Who do you think posted it?
I really don't know. I have maybe the May 4th coalition, maybe somebody heard what I was doing, but other people, I look back, I was in a back seat of a cruiser on my way from Kent State to Ravenna, and I know other people looking back were following us.
And what was your relationship with the May 4 coalition in the aftermath of this?
Not a whole lot. I never went to any meetings or anything, but they wanted to know who I was, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since, we're over 50 years since Kent State.
Yeah.
And, coming up on 50 years since this 1977 story. But have your feelings towards the Kent State shooting, have they changed over time in any way?
I don't think about it every day, but it's part of my history and the history of the United States, of what was going on in a certain time.
In mid-July of '77, when you were going to this protest, you carefully selected a wardrobe.
Yes.
For this particular day. What were you wearing, and why did you wear it?
I wore, I guess they call them BDUs. I wore the top half of my U.S. Army and had my name tag and I think my rank on it. And I dressed in that and went to Kent State.
And how were you received? I mean, you show up in National Guard uniform.
Oh, people were wanting to know what's going on, and I told them I come up there and I wanted to give them what I thought went on with the National Guards and happened that day. And I had something to say, and only the coalition would want to hear.
Well, what do you think went on that day?
What happened that day was people not having enough training, and they overreacted to a situation. That's what happened that day.
So you go to campus in July of '77 in hopes to share this
Yes.
perspective,
Yes.
and you are arrested.
Yes.
And I read in one of these news articles that you were cited for contempt of a court order which issued earlier to clear protesters from the area. You were released on $25 bond.
I believe that is correct.
Do you remember paying the bond?
I did not. I don't know who did. Somebody did, but it wasn't me.
Mr. Stovall, what was your interaction with Alan Canfora?
Well, he was, I believe, with the May 4th Coalition, and I met him there. And he's from a town real close to where I lived. So he lived in Barberton, I lived in Akron, and he was just telling me what's going on with the May 4th Coalition and what they want to do. And majority of their ideas and beliefs I believed. So that's how I met him, and I didn't get his phone number or anything, but I never got back in touch with him, I don't think, if I remember. But that's how I met him.
So your time in the Guard stretched from 1965 to 71?
Right, I spent 5 years in the National Guard, and then 1 year, and I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and I joined the last year the Kentucky National Guard for 1 year.
And how do you remember those 5 or 6 years overall? How do you remember your time in the Guard?
Well, 1 weekend a month was dedicated to the military, and I was 19 to 25 in the military there, and just had every 1 weekend a month that was gone, and then you would do AT, annual training. That's usually in the summer, and we were gone for 15 days. We'd go to various places, like Camp Grayling, Michigan, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, things like that.
Do you think that the narrative surrounding the Kent State shootings, do you think the Ohio National Guard was treated fairly in the aftermath?
I don't really know what happened to them. I know some of them got charged in something, and our governor then was named Rhodes. Never really followed up and what happened to them. Anytime when, what I understand, they were shooting at some people maybe 50 yards away, and they killed people over 100 yards away. And it was loss of life there, and they could have handled it, I think, in so many other I'm doing a Monday morning quarterback, so many other ways they could have handled that situation. And I go back to what I said, they overreacted to a situation.
What is your reaction, every May 4th when there are anniversary pieces in the news on television and the newspaper?
I reminisce about what's going on and said, I've been there, I done that. And then I go about my life. I didn't go back up there to say anything anymore. I said what I had to in 1977.
And have you been back to the campus since
I have.
77?
I drive a school bus, and I happened to take a field trip from one of the high schools up to Kent State. And they had something going on there that Dean Kaler was there. And I ran in because I wouldn't stay on my bus. Of course, I walked with the students and the teachers, and I ran into Dean Kaler, and I said hi to him. He's the one in the wheelchair. And that's unfortunate that happened to him too, because there was 4 dead and a bunch wounded.
Well, is there any question that I have not asked that I should ask?
Oh,
Or anything that anything else that you would want to comment on?
After this happened, I would talk to some of my friends, and they say, yeah, well, you did it. You had your 5 minutes of fame, so to speak. And some other people say, I don't think it'll change anything. You just wasted time, so to speak. But I had pros and cons on that. Some of my close friends, that they could say how they felt. And it went both ways, that I really wouldn't accomplish anything.
Were you ever adversely treated because someone found out that you were in the Guard?
No, definitely not. But I've heard when I come back from May 4th shootings, and I come home, and I've heard people speak, well, they should have shot more of them. And this is the older generation, and I just said, you just don't know what's going on. And I wouldn't try to argue my point or anything. I just walked away.
Does the Kent State shootings offer any sort of lesson in American history?
I think so. I think it shows there's other ways to handle a situation. Like when I was in the Kentucky National Guard, they had some riots going on down there in, I believe, 71, I believe. And what they had us do, had the Kentucky State Police, train us into using these, not baseball bats, but long sticks, how to poke and move in formations and do different things that wouldn't necessarily kill, but would get people out of the way and move them where you wanted to move them. Yeah, so that's what they just need more training in a turbulent time without just opening fire. And I really can't say who said fire. I think when one round went off, it opened it up. And I can't remember how many rounds were fired. 13, 15. I really don't know. Maybe you could help me with that. I don't know.
Well, thank you for your time.
Well, you're welcome.
I really appreciate you sitting and being a part of this project.
Well, thank you for having
Yeah.
me, sir.